Hello and welcome to the Manufacturing Shakeup. Today we have Paul Lavoie in the house, the Chief Manufacturing Officer for Connecticut. Hello, Paul.
Hi, how are you? Hi, Ellen. Hi, Jenny.
We're
Great to
delighted to have you
see
here.
you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for timing out of your incredibly busy work schedule to hang out with us. And we're jazzed that this is our big kickoff podcast. Woo! Yay!
I'm very excited.
We're making it happen.
Yes.
So,
So,
hot
Paul,
question of the hour. Oh, Ellen, go ahead. I feel clearly you have something on your mind.
I was just going to say, I see you everywhere. And my first question is, do you have a body double? Like, how are you so everywhere in the state of Connecticut?
Well, no, there's only one of me, and thank God. But you know, uh, my job really is to be out with my customers, and my customers are the 4,600 manufacturers here in the state of Connecticut. I am not built to be in an office.
Hmm.
I was thinking about that today. Thank God during the pandemic, I was running a manufacturing business because I got to go to work every day. But I'm not meant to be sitting in an office. I'm really meant to be out visiting with customers, listening and learning to with our manufacturers, learning about what we do, but listening to what their challenges are, and then linking them to the resources that they have available. So, the more I'm out there, the more effective we are. I have an amazing team that I work with that gets everything done while I'm out there doing it. And I also heard that if you never slow down, you never grow old. So I'm going to make sure that I may wear out, but I can guarantee you I will not rust out. So
There you go.
Just replace the wear parts periodically, knees, hips, whatever.
yeah,
Totally
that's
works.
exactly right.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard that rumor, and I am also in favor of this because it's really about the life in our years, not how long we're out there. So, the question I wanted to ask you, because I haven't had a chance, is when did you land in manufacturing? Like, how old were you when you landed in manufacturing?
Oh, gee. Well, how old was I? That's going to give away a really big secret. No, it's not a
Well, you're
secret.
7,000 years old, so it's not going to be,
Exactly.
and I'm at least 7,000 years old, and Ellen is too. So, we can get it all the way.
2014, yeah.
Yeah.
So I've had seven different careers, which is incredibly interesting, I think, at some level. But I really got involved in manufacturing when I owned a marketing agency. And a little bit before that, I was a business coach and I had a coaching practice. So I was working with manufacturing companies to help them become better. Essentially, basically what I would do is go in and work with an owner of a company to help them become better at running their business. And so that's really where I got started. That was, let's see, that was 2000. Let's see, it was about 2004. So I was 44. We'll call it that. So it was 2004, and that's when I started to get involved with manufacturers. And then in 2008, I bought a marketing agency and began to doing marketing for manufacturers. So manufacturers that you might know, but we also did a lot of work with Stanley Black and Decker,
Hmm.
and really started to kind of fall in love with the manufacturing industry and the people in the industry and the products that we make and all of that. And then I had an opportunity to sell my agency and go to work in manufacturing. So I joined
Mm.
one of my longtime clients. They were a client when I was coaching, and they were a client of mine, and we did all their marketing for them. It was a company called Eder Engineering in Bristol, and Eder was on the Inc. 500, 5,000 fastest growing companies for 3 years straight. It was a great organization that was growing, and I really joined them to bring a sense of help them grow, really to help them get to the point where they had doubled in size. So it really helped them get to the point where they could run their own operation and help them do that. And then a family member tapped me on the shoulder and said, wanted me to come and run his business and teach the next generation. And that was Carey
Hmm.
Manufacturing. And after telling Jack Carey no for about 4 years, he wore me down and ended up at Carey Manufacturing running the business there. So I was 20 years ago when I first started working with manufacturing companies. And again, like I said, it really became a passion and a passion of mine to help manufacturers grow and to help them succeed.
Mm.
It sounds like your career path has just been saying yes to iterative moves that made sense for you personally and professionally.
Yeah,
It's interesting because
I
we're
had
in
some,
that same bucket with you.
yeah, I had somebody ask me to kind of describe myself, and I thought about this, and I said, I think the best description is I'm an architect and a builder. And what I
Hmm.
mean by that is I design things and then I build systems, and
Hmm.
I build them to be able to exist without me. So when you take a look at what we're doing in the Office of Manufacturing, I have this vision of full employment in the manufacturing sector by 2030 and to grow manufacturing to 20% of the state's GDP. And what I'm doing is designing that, but building the systems in place so that when I'm no longer the chief manufacturing officer, these systems, these things are still going to be happening and they're still going to be going on. And so when you look at some of the programs that we're putting in place, these are programs that should last long beyond. And if some governor decides we don't want to have a chief manufacturing officer, the stuff that we're building here will live beyond that as well. And that really is when I look back at my career, that's exactly what I did. Is I built companies um, that were able to be successful and then be successful after I was able to move on to something else. So architect and a builder, systemic approach to growing manufacturing in the state of Connecticut is really what we're doing here in the Office of Manufacturing.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And Jenny and I both participated in the Elevate Her program, which is an initiative of your office. Was that launched to help fill the gap in the number of people in manufacturing, like as a way to bring more women in and raise the role of women as participants in the workforce in manufacturing? Was that its original goal?
Yeah, absolutely. So the genesis of Elevate Her came out of I was given an opportunity for the Tunxus Community Foundation to assemble a panel for an event, and they wanted to talk about workforce, they wanted to talk about technology, and they wanted to talk about education within the manufacturing sector. So I asked the three smartest people that I knew in those areas to join me on the panel. And as I was sitting there moderating the panel, my panelists were Dr. Kelly Valeries, who's our Chief Workforce Officer, Dr. Jacqueline Garofano, who's the Chief Technology Officer at the Connecticut Center for Advanced Technology, and Dr. Karen Wasina Birch, who is the principal investigator for the College of Technology and the National Science Foundation funded Office of Advanced Manufacturing for the United States. And I thought, my God, I'm here with these three incredibly talented and brilliant women. I have to do something about this. Like, I need to leverage all of this talent. How do
Hmm.
I do that? Like, how do I get more women engaged in manufacturing? And then I thought, well, I know nothing about a female's experience in manufacturing, so I should probably create an advisory council to be able to to advise me on what I should be doing.
Hmm.
Again, the last thing oh, I'll make a broad statement here. The last thing women need is men telling them what they should be doing, right? So, let women tell me what we should be doing so that we can do that, so that we can make sure that we're delivering programs and developing systems that are going to help women. And then, it started out as the Women in Manufacturing Advisory Council. That's way too long. And, I didn't want to confuse it with the Women in Manufacturing Council that we have here, that is amazing. So we, at a moment of creative
Marketing
inspiration,
genius.
I said, Elevate Her. And somebody went, wow, that's a great name. I said, that does sound pretty good. So that's how Elevate Her came about. And we held an inaugural meeting in December. I was blown away by the women that had volunteered to participate and the energy and the enthusiasm. And then this is a function. The manufacturing shakeup is just really an output of that process of, how do we provide women with opportunities for professional development
Hmm.
in a snackable content type of way, and
Mm-hmm. Actually,
so
Paul,
again, I have,
I want to ask you about something around that.
yeah,
Sorry, I gotta jump in because I'm super curious
jump
and
in. No, this is
that's
great.
how I am. So, I love the whole initiative around women, but one thing that our listeners may or may not have any lens on about, is why manufacturing for Connecticut? So you are the only creature of your kind. I think Connecticut, there's no other state that has a chief manufacturing officer, right? So I think that's really important for our listeners to understand. Can you just give us a snapshot real quick of why manufacturing, why Connecticut, what matters to our little old corner of the world about this?
Sure, absolutely, absolutely, Jen. So the commissioner of DECD, Dan O'Keefe, was asked, new on the job, and he was asked, is manufacturing important to the economy of Connecticut? And his response was no, it's existential. And that's really is kind of the genesis of this, is that it is such a driver. Manufacturing is such a driver of a positive economy, and it gives people an opportunity to change the trajectory of their lives and to change the trajectory of generations of their families with jobs and careers in manufacturing. And so it's so important to the economic development of the state of Connecticut, in that, every dollar that is spent in manufacturing generates another $2.79 in the economy. Every job that is created creates 3 other jobs in the economy in the manufacturing sector. So it is so important to a healthy and vibrant economy to have a manufacturing sector. And then the other thing that's really important is that the manufacturing sector draws money from outside the state of Connecticut.
Right.
So there is significant billions and billions of dollars pour into Connecticut for manufacturing companies to make products, hire people, provide them with opportunities, those paychecks are then used to fuel the local economy. And so it's so vital to have a strong export, a strong export economy where we're making products that are leaving the state of Connecticut, but the money to make those coming into the state of Connecticut. So and that's both domestically and globally. So it's such an important driver of the economy. And then secondly, again, it gives manufacturing careers, you can come right out of high school into a career that will change your life. And you could be 18 years old. Just to give you an example, down at Platt Tech in Milford, the graduating class in 2024, every student that went into the workplace got a full-time job at more than $20 an hour. That's a $45,000 a year job. With a little bit of overtime, it's a $55,000 a year job for an 18-year-old. This is, these are jobs that are people able to live, quite frankly, in the state
Buy
of
homes,
Connecticut.
support the economy, do all that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's
Really
why
high quality of
manufacturing
life.
is so important. And again, it provides that opportunity and helps drive the economy.
So, quick question for you. In terms of the manufacturing shakeup as an outcome of the Elevate Her initiative, what do you hope, why are you investing? Why is your office investing in creating this platform here in Connecticut?
Yeah, so great question. So what I heard in the first meeting was professional development is so difficult for women because of all of the responsibilities that they have. And I actually was with a group of people, and I said, you come home from work, and if you have kids, you got to deal with the kids and what's going on with the kids, and you got to make dinner, and you got to do this, and you got this, and you got laundry. And somebody said to me, sounds like men should be doing something more work. And I said, listen, I'm working on problems I can solve, right? So not problems I can't solve. And so I agree with you, but I just, but understanding that the environment that are women, and by the time you're done for the end of the day, you're exhausted, right? And then you got to go back and recycle, and you got to do that again. And there's really no time for professional development. So the idea that I had was, how do we come up with snackable content? How do we come up with a 20-minute podcast that, maybe if you have, before you go to bed, you want to grab a glass of wine and listen, to just listen, to be able to get, and I know we have such inspirational women that will be on the podcast. And this is a podcast for women, by women, designed to help women. And so it's, you'll see me this time and you won't see me again. So, but it's a great way to, if you're driving, you have a 20-minute commute, listen to the podcast on your commute to be inspired. And I want to share stories of success, and I want women to be inspired by other women, and I want them to share that. So I immediately called our producer, Gail Tannenbaum, and said, Gail, I want to do this, put together a proposal. And then she told me I can't host it, which is the right decision. And she said, we have to find some hosts.
We
have
agree
to
with
find
Gail.
some hosts. She actually told me that before I asked. And I'm like, how did you know that? And then that's why I have Ellen and Jenny. So this is why we have the Boulder group here as well. So excited I'm just really, really excited to be able to have this be of value to the women that are currently working in manufacturing, and to inspire women to seek careers in manufacturing as well.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So if you could share some, so when you worked in manufacturing,
Yeah.
what was a lesson that you learned that you could just share? Like, let's make this a shake-up developmental moment. Since you worked in manufacturing, like, what was some lesson that you learned that you think everybody should learn?
Yeah, that's great. That's a great question, I guess, because so at Carey Manufacturing, I'll talk a little bit about them. Carey Manufacturing, we were happily and fully staffed, and we had a great culture of allowing people to be themselves within a very strong team environment. And we reshored an entire product line. So we had a very young staff, and we had a very experienced staff. So we had a product line that we had always manufactured in the US, and that had a very experienced team on it. And then we stood up in 2017, 2018, we stood up a brand new production line, and we staffed that with all young people. So we had this really interesting culture, and my job was to really manage that culture. And what I learned was that in order to have an effective culture, you needed to understand the needs of the individual while blending that all together in a team. And you needed to make work meaningful for each individual. Now, that's really hard to do, but what I said is that there was only one thing that changed at Carey Manufacturing that allowed that to happen. And the one thing that changed was me. I had to become more flexible. I had to become more understanding, and I had to become more in tune to people and what it was that made people happy at work, and to be a little bit more flexible. And I'll just give you a story. We had this guy that worked for us that was a great employee, always on time, and all of a sudden he starts texting me, I'm going to be 15 minutes late. I'm going to be 15 minutes late. I'm going to be 15 minutes late. And he kept, it like 3-4 times a week, and he'd come in and he'd be all apologetic. I'm so sorry I'm late. Oh my God, I'm sorry. So finally I'm like, all right, something's going on. So he's supposed to be at work at 8:30. So I sit him down. I said, Jim, what's going on? He goes, around my apartment building, I found this group of feral cats, and I feed them in the morning, but they don't come out until 8 o'clock. And so by the time I see them and I feed them and I take care of those cats, by the time I get to work, it's 8:45. I looked at him, I go, oh, I said, is it important to you to feed those cats? Well, it's very important to me. He says, who's going to feed them? Who's going to care for them? I said, well, why don't we just have your shift start at 9 o'clock? Instead of coming in at 8:30 and all of the stress and you texting me and all of that, why don't you just come in at 9 o'clock? Now, Erlene, your work partner, she's here at 8 o'clock. Erlene, is it okay with you if Jim comes in at 9? She goes, yeah, I don't care. I can cover till 9 o'clock. I said, okay. Now, Jim, and he goes, well, can I work till 5, 4 days a week, but can I work till 7:30 on Wednesday to make up the time? Jim, as long as your orders are in every day, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me. Do what's important to you. And it was a simple little adjustment that took the entire pressure off of this guy. But everybody saw that. And then, from a culture perspective, everybody was like, oh my God, they really care about us here. They're willing to do things. And the team they all started to come together. And there are like 6 or 7 examples at Carey Manufacturing about just understanding what it was that was providing people with stress, eliminating that, and watching their productivity and their work performance soar. And it was just a little tiny change. But I had to ask the question, why? Why are you doing this, Jim? What is it in your life? And is it important to you? And then I always made the statement, well, if it's important to you, it's important to me too.
Yep.
And then immediately Hey, can you come in Saturday? Because we're a little bit behind. Yeah, I'll be there. Sure. Happy to come in Saturday. I mean,
Right, they love you forever at that point
Yeah.
because
well, yeah.
you flexed to their need, accommodated a small thing, and demonstrated that you care about who they are as a person.
Yeah, and
Yep.
there's the adage that nobody is going to care about you until they know you care about them, right?
Absolutely.
And so you're if you're a leader and you expect people to care as much as you do, the question I would ask you is, do you really care about them? And do you
Mhm.
really care about who they are and what they're doing? And are you sympathetic and empathetic? I mean, again, there are things you could be empathetic with, but there are only some things you could be sympathetic with. But are you? And are you
Right.
understanding what their, kind of what their challenges are? And then when they know you care, they'll care, and then you'll have a culture of really high performers who care a lot about each other.
So I'm going to pull what I'm thinking of as like critical shakeup factors out of what you're saying. So one of them that I hear is to help people find meaning in their work, right? Connect them to that, and you should be connected to it as well. Second shakeup factor I hear is start with yourself, understand who you are, like understand that you are seen and you are visible, and that you have to be modeling. And going within, really going within and asking, how am I showing up today? Like, what am I doing? Like, how am I showing up? And the third one that I really like is this paying attention part, right? Really paying attention to what that is. And the overarching theme of all of those that I really like is we all intellectually, so at Boulder Company, we are a little bit obsessed with what is observable behavior? What are we actually demonstrating? Because the world is not shy on content. There's plenty of content in the world, and we all know everything, right? In terms of sort of, I can read a book on anything. There's loads of content. But what really matters is what we demonstrate, what we show. And, for example, I'm showing my cat right now, who, by the way, completely approves of the choice you made to support that employee. Ollie wanted you to know that. Welcome to the shakeup where cats happen. But what I love about your story is that you went beyond the intellectual idea. So some of our leaders out listening to the podcast today say, well, of course, may say, well, of course, that's what I should do. Of course, I should care. I should have an open door policy. I should do whatever. We're great at shoulding on ourselves. But what you just pointed to in a very specific way was you gave us an example of how you demonstrated care. And that is a different thing. So overarching theme, what am I demonstrating beyond just what I say I know? To me, that's a really, really key shakeup factor. Thank you for sharing that story. I think we're winding down on time here too. Holy moly, this went quick.
Good. Well, all right, before we run out of time, I want to turn the tables. I want to ask you guys a question. All right. So we have this is the first of the manufacturing shakeup. We're looking for hosts. Why
Yes,
you
we are.
guys? Why are you
Why
interested in
us?
hosting this? Yeah,
Well,
why you?
What you may not know about Boulder Company is that we've been working in manufacturing and specifically with women in manufacturing since 2019. We've been intimately involved with Women in Manufacturing organization at the national level. We work with their chapter leaders. We attend and speak at their regional events. And we have manufacturing clients really across the United States. We live here in Connecticut, though. And so part of our goal for 2024 was to come home and make the same impact here that we're making in lots of big organizations around the country, but not specifically here. And so we were so thrilled that Gail tapped us and said, are you available to do this? Because we were like, were you in that strategic meeting when we talked about coming back to Connecticut? Because we really want to make more of an imprint here in Connecticut and get more involved in manufacturing here. So I would say we have expertise in the sector, and we also have a passion for growing the capabilities of people, not just women, but all people in the manufacturing sector so that their organizations can reflect more of what you just described happened at Carey and what some of our other guests are going to be talking about in terms of transforming the cultures within their organizations. So that's why for me.
Well, and I'm going to add to that because I came up through industry, so I spent years in distribution and operations. I started my career driving a forklift is one of the things I commonly say. So like a lot of our listeners and yourself, I've sort of been on some of that ground level, down and dirty work. Like that adventure is so fun and so interesting. And I feel like more of the people in Connecticut can shape their lives well in that adventure. And that's like, if people are doing that and having fun with it, that's good for us. Like that's good for our culture in Connecticut. If people are doing work that they love, that lights them up. And what I know about industry is that, yeah, it's high pressure, but it's also a boatload of fun, and the challenges are never ending, and the opportunities for stretching who you are and how you recognize the value you bring to the table are tremendous. And so that's something that always excites me, is helping people to see themselves differently than they may have.
I would say the last piece for me that just occurred as you were talking, Jenny, is that both of us, in the work that we do and the way we live our lives, use stories to illustrate things. In the same way that you just talked about that man and his feral cats, people immediately got a picture of who he was and the cats all gathering around him or whatever it was. And so we were invited to help people tell their stories. And for many of these people, it's the first time they're telling their stories publicly about their path to getting here. And we hope that that will light other people up and inspire them and have them want to take a next step or ask a next question or reach out to one of our guests so that they can build their own network, which is one of the things that we're advocating strongly, right? Is building networks among women in this sector so that they can grow their careers and grow their professions and lives.
Yeah, well, the three teams of Elevate Her are networking, experience, and development, and this podcast is part of that development group. By the way, the acronym for that is NED. Please don't let the irony of that escape any of us. But that's how it helps me remember it, So
we need shirts, Paul. We need like NED shirts.
NED
Office
shirts,
Manufacturing, Elevate NED.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. They'll have no idea what we're doing, by the way.
It doesn't matter.
That's what'll make it a conversation piece. People will be like,
there you go.
Who's Ned? And why should I elevate her? And what? Wait, what?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So only by the grace of him am I here. So, I'm allowed to do all this stuff.
The grace of Ned.
Sure.
Same,
But I know. It could have been Den, but then I'm like, it's better to be Ned.
No.
Could have been
Den is a
too,
room and from 1977 that nobody actually goes into anymore because it's a really old word. Den. Who goes into a den anymore?
That's right. Well, Paul Lavoie, thank you very much for being the first guest on the Manufacturing Shakeup. We want to remind the people listening to this podcast that they can find the Manufacturing Shakeup on YouTube, where you can actually see all the shenanigans that are going on, including Ollie the cat, or you can listen on Spotify or any of your favorite podcast platforms. And we look forward to connecting with you on the road.
Ellen and Jenny, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for hosting. This is going to be so important to the women in Connecticut to be able to help grow and develop their careers. I so appreciate the both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Talk soon, Paul.
Thanks for listening to the Manufacturing Shakeup. You can listen to us each week on your favorite podcast app. You'll find us on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. And if you use the hashtag MFG Shakeup, we will see them and really appreciate your spreading the word about what you're hearing and learning each week. Hey, Jenny, did I forget anything?
Yes, you did. Here's the most important bit. You may have learned something from that guest. They may have told a story about, here's what I did and here's how it worked. Here at the Manufacturing Shakeup, we are all about action. So take some nugget of what you heard today and put it into practice, even if it's small and experimental. Get busy, get dangerous, go shake stuff up and bring people along with you. Go take an action, post it on social media. Let's have some fun.
The Manufacturing Shakeup is sponsored by the Connecticut Office of Manufacturing, produced by Maselli Productions and Gale Communications, and hosted by the Boulder Company.